Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Mike De La Cruz, and this is my partner,
Elijah Simmons.
Today, we're going to be discussing about a relatively small firm called Katapult Engineering. Now, what is Katapult Engineering? Well, this is Katapult Engineering. No, I'm just kidding. This is Katapult Engineering. Now, based on what you just saw, you might be wondering, what kind of services does Katapult Engineering really have to offer? Well, Katapult Engineering is well known for their specialization in telecommunications from the software perspective. They're involved in the physical infrastructure of telecommunication systems, which consist of telephone poles and telecom networks. That being said, Katapult Engineering has one mission in mind, and I will quote from them directly. The heartbeat of Katapult Engineering is to create solutions and build meaningful relationships that are a win for our partners, a win for our communities, and a win for the industry. Simply, Katapult Engineering is looking to leverage as many solutions as they possibly can in an attempt to help us, specifically those of us who live in suburban or rural areas. Typically, depending on where you live, these areas can be technologically deficient, meaning they don't have access to 5G, high-speed internet, cable, or electricity. These communities are very underserved, and Katapult Engineering aims to fix that. We will now be talking about the technical aspects of Katapult Engineering, and my partner will now take that mantle from me.
Yeah, so we're going to go over a lot of things, so bear with us. We're going to have to go a little bit fast, so please pay attention. But starting with, we're going to talk about how Katapult uses their technology to provide solutions. We'll talk about how they're innovating in this field and how they started innovating. And then we'll talk about some of the futures of the company, future casting in the industry as well. We'll talk about the ethical standards of the company and what that means for the world and for the industry. And then we'll tie it all back in a conclusion. So starting with the problem solving, this is how Katapult Engineering does their work. They're focused on solving three main problems. But first, I'm just going to tell you what it is in a simple term, how they use their technology. Their technology is a software that essentially captures all the data you would ever want to know about a telephone pole. And it's a lot more than you could possibly think. So by capturing all of that data and providing it in a software as a solution model, they work on safety. And with the electrical grid, safety is actually mostly concerned with keeping the lights on. Think of the last time you lost power in your house. It was probably a horrible experience. You can't charge your devices, you can't connect to the internet. A lot of people today wouldn't be able to work without electricity. So we need electricity constantly on to make sure the world keeps running. Another thing with safety is that we have workers that go out and build these networks and work on them when they're down. We've got to make sure these guys stay safe and do their work effectively and efficiently. We can't be wasting time and resources and manpower, and we certainly can't have their safety compromised in the field. So going along with that, efficiency first. That's one of Katapult's mottos, and that's one of the ways their software provides a solution. So that brings me back to the history of Katapult Engineering. They were founded back in 1991 as an OSP design group in Dillsburg, PA, which is just 5 miles south of here. And I should mention, the CEO of this company was from Messiah University. So we've got a lot of potential in us. So they started as an OSP design group, which means they did the engineering work behind designing and building these telecommunication networks. Things like telephone poles, cable, all this. And the way they did their work, they had one problem with it. It took too long. It was too slow. There was a lot of menial tasks they had to do, such as collecting data, writing down information, coming back with it, putting it in a database, or putting it somewhere else, that they didn't like doing. So they decided to come up with a solution. They decided to start automating things with software. So they started building this software, and it turned into a model that they started selling in 2013. And the model caught on so fast that by 2015, they're calling it Katapult Pro and selling it as one of their main products. And they're still selling it today as one of their main products. So we're going to take a look at this product a little more in depth, talk about how they're using current technology in this model, and Mike's going to take that mantle from me.
There are two ways that big data helps Katapult Engineering do what they do on a daily basis. One of those ways is through data collection. And one of those methods in data collection is through telecom auditing. What telecom auditing is just a way of using aerial imaging devices to receive or capture a live map, which the engineers at Katapult can utilize to photo map all of their telephone poles. And then we have our other two processes, which is the distribution inventory and the broadband deployment. These two kind of go hand in hand, and the reason why I say that is because both of them require what's called a make-ready plan to be announced before they can officially begin. And what the make-ready plan is just a form of verification and action on the engineer's side of Katapult that they say, we are now officially ready to install these telephone poles. And then we have the readiness for disruptions. This one is somewhat self-explanatory because it has the word monitoring in it, but it's monitoring infrastructure. Essentially what that is almost every telephone pole has a sensor on it that can detect whether or not there is some form of disruption or if it has falling to the ground or something like that. And if it has, it sends out a signal to the engineer at Katapult so that they can fill out a work order to fix it. And then the advancements. Originally, we were going to futurecast all of these three implementations, but we have just received word from one of the engineers at Katapult yesterday that they are already using one of these implementations. And the ones that they are currently using are the integrations with AI. They're using AI in their telecom auditing devices to photo map the telephone poles for them. Of course, they're not going to solely rely on AI, and so they're going to review and check if there's any mistakes. And then there's the adaptability of large data sets. As of right now, Katapult Engineering's software application can store 0.5 terabyte in their storage, but then again, they're not utilizing all of that storage because they're learning how to effectively handle big data. And then there's consulting. You might be wondering, how is consulting even up there? How is it even relevant? And the only reason why it's relevant is because the engineers at Katapult are now training their clients or teaching them how to use or how to manage big data and how to use AI for the photo mapping process. And now for the ethical implications. Katapult Engineering is a software as a service middleware provider. So of course, the full responsibility falls on them to ensure that there's nothing malicious in their software application. And to also add into addition that they're relying mostly on private capital to fund their services. And this is where the altruistic endeavor goes south, because these private investors aren't always looking for the improvement of these communities, since they are the ones who decide which ones they want to contribute to. And so their investment really determines, or their decision determines who or which communities are really benefited. And typically they'll go with the ones that will benefit them the most in terms of an ROI, or otherwise known as a return on investment. And now my partner will conclude.
Yeah, so we talked about how Katapult started innovating in this field to help themselves, and how that eventually transitioned to helping the whole industry as a whole. But now we also talked about their ethical practices. They hold themselves to a pretty rigorous ethical standard as far as I'm concerned, and I would say that most companies and people they've worked with as well would say the same. So looking into the future here, I see that they're still innovating, they're integrating the new technology into their systems. And the big thing that's going on right now is the fact that with all of this AI, with all these, we've got fiber optic cables now, we've got 5G now, everything is moving progressively farther into the technological sphere. So we're seeing a lot more investment into the network and into making sure we have electricity going everywhere. We all know about the nuclear power plant that's going up just a few miles north of here for the big data. So Katapult is aiming to lead this new development of all these technologies in a revolutionary way. And it's in a way that uses the technology that they're serving, which is interesting. So keep an eye on this space as they continue to grow and they continue to put more resources into this. I read that there was a $65 billion investment from the government into our infrastructure and our electrical grid. So there's a lot of money piling in on this, and there's not too many people providing what Katapult provides. So, of course, if you're looking for an internship, you may want to submit your resumes there. And that is all about Katapult Engineering. Thank you very much.